Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I was asked about something today, and I thought it was really interesting. Mainly because I just find all things interesting that relate to Black love and Black relationships to be fascinating and interesting educational opportunities in terms of understanding life. I'm really into understanding the school of life. And so anyway, the big thing that everybody's kind of talking about that I think it's worth weighing in on, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not from a gossipy standpoint, although if you want to make it gossipy, you can see it that way, there's this weird situation going on apparently with Nicole Murphy, Eddie Murphy's wife, and director Antoine Fuqua. And at the same time, Antoine Fuqua happens to be married to a lady named Lela Rochon. Now, if you recall, Lela Rochon she plays Sunshine in Harlem Nights, at which time she was the finest woman to ever grace the movie screen. She's the prettiest thing ever. Like literally, 20, 30 years later, people were making jokes about Sunshine. Anybody remember that joke? Anybody remember Sunshine? Tell me if you remember Sunshine, in the scene of Sunshine where Della Reese said her pussy's so good you throw it in the air and it'll turn into sunshine. Anybody remember Sunshine? Yes. So apparently Antoine was the lucky son of a bitch that got a chance to marry Lela Rochon back in 1999. He beat out the other 8 billion men that would have gladly married her. And they've been married for a long time. I had no idea that they were married. Their marriage has lasted, I guess, 20 years. They got married by 1999, had a couple kids. He's a lucky guy. Good for him. Apparently there's this picture that sprung up of Antoine engaging in some extracurricular activities with Nicole Murphy. Now, Nicole, I know Nicole indirectly. I've actually been on a couple movie projects, where she was around, and I would see her in LA. I saw her at a party in Hollywood, and Nicole, I'd say she became famous by being married to Eddie Murphy, but she's kind of famous in her own right. She has a presence about her. I remember I was at this Hollywood party. I don't go to Hollywood parties that often. Somebody invited me to one, and I thought it was interesting to be in that space. And all these people were there, and these were like maybe C list celebs, people that were famous but not too famous, but famous enough where you're like, oh, you're the guy that was in the show that ended 15 years ago. People like that. Like for example, I saw the guy that played the brother on Family Matters. I forgot his name, but he's like this wild, crazy party animal. It was really interesting to be in this space. I'm not big on the Hollywood stuff. I think Hollywood makes Black people fucking crazy. Excuse my French. Like Negroes go to Hollywood and they start acting weird. Anyway, so Nicole walks in, and she's definitely a alpha female, kind of like the Mean Girls kind of thing. She's like a peacock, and she has like this presence, and you can tell that she's walking in, and she's got this trail of people behind her, I guess like her minions, and she's like walking in like, I'm here, and I'm Nicole Murphy, and I'm beautiful, and you should love me, and she's on Instagram, and she has these pictures of her amazing body. She really keeps her body together, and it ain't just, and I don't even think we should end up getting into hating on it, right? Like people, I think I read an article where they're like, well, I heard she has surgery. Yeah, a lot of people in Hollywood get surgery. That's kind of common, but I think that she's also into fitness. Like I'll see her post a lot of things about fitness and staying fit and being in shape. So she looks great for it to be 51 years old. You have to give her props. Like, Eddie Murphy has good taste, and whatever, it is what it is, right? This is what I see. You know me, you guys know how I am. I just tell you what I see. I'm not telling you what you want to hear or what you don't want to hear. I'm just telling you what I see and what I hear. So apparently Antoine Fuqua, who's this director who's done a bunch of big movies. Let me see. I'm trying to look and see. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. They say Wikipedia isn't perfectly accurate, but it gives you enough decent information to know the basics. He's done movies like Training Day, but I think he's done a lot of big movies since Training Day. He started off as a music director or music video director. Let me see. He's going to do a remake of Scarface. What are some of his biggest movies? I'm looking for some of his big ones. I thought he did some of the. I thought he wasn't involved like the Fast and Furious. No, here we go. Here's a list of his movies. Brooklyn's Finest, which is okay. Olympus Has Fallen, that was a big one. The Equalizer, the Equalizer movies are awesome. Southpaw, don't know that one. The Magnificent Seven, don't know that one. The American Dream, American Nightmare. Don't know that one. So he did Bait with Jamie Foxx. The Training Day movies, Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis. So he's done some big movies. He's made some money. He's probably, banked hundreds of millions of dollars in movie ticket receipts or whatever. So he's successful. He's a successful man. He's Antoine Fuqua. That's his name, not Antoine Fisher. So anyway, here's the deal. Okay, so basically, apparently, Antoine and Nicole became friends, and they became very special friends. And it's really interesting because I kind of thought it was a little bit of a bad look for Nicole after they got. So apparently the paparazzi, they chase you around when you're famous, and they caught a picture. See, I thought I get him mixed up with F. Gary Gray, Gavin. A lot of people do. At least I did. So that's why I was thinking about the Fast and Furious movies. But they took a picture of Nicole and Antoine in a little smoochy, right? And Nicole comes back. I think it says something ridiculous like, we've been friends for a long time, and I gave him a friendly kiss. Well, I mean, shit, if that's a friendly kiss, then we're all a bunch of whores. Because I must be too much of a goody two shoes. Because I ain't never kissed a friend like that. That wasn't no like if you kiss a sibling like that, people gonna have you locked up for incest or molestation or something. You don't kiss family friends and whatever like that. That was like one of those like I'm kissing you because we just finished fucking kinds of kisses. Let's just be real. We're grown. We're adults. We can that was a heavy kiss. That was a vampire in Brooklyn kiss. Yeah, kind of like that, And it is what it is, right? I don't even think it's something to judge one way or the other. And let me tell you why. So let me tell you why I'm even bringing this up. So apparently there's a whole conversation where somebody on BET grabbed onto a couple of comments made by a couple of men who I don't think represent the majority of all people. I think they were making a conversation out of a tweet, right? Taking one tweet and making it into a thing. But the tweet was something basically saying, well, look at Lela Rochon. Lela Rochon is, she don't look like sunshine no more. Poor thing, she's not what she used to be. She ain't sunshine. Maybe she's moonshine or something. I don't know, or whatever. But she's still beautiful, but a different kind of beautiful. Just big and beautiful. That's what she would be, right? Still beautiful, still gorgeous. Looks better than most women in their 50s. You have to give her props for that. A very, very pretty lady, etc. But what this guy apparently was saying was that, well, of course Antoine's going to do blah, 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 or be attracted to another woman because, his wife, doesn't look like the way she used to look. And of course that set people off. A lot of people got upset. They defined that as body shaming Lela Rochon. And, he's a dog, he's this, he's that, etc. And I'm not going to completely disagree with that. People can think what they want to think, but I'll give you some points of view and perspectives because I think it's best to understand relationships from the point of view of not looking at the world in terms of the way you want to see it, but looking at the world in terms of what it is, right? So here's the way the world works. And this is what makes relationships and marriage kind of a tough thing. First of all, I believe most married people have some experiences and situations that just don't fit the fairy tale of marriage. I believe, in fact, when I started really talking to a lot of my married friends about the details of what was really going on in their situations, it almost never fit the image that they were presenting. I've seen families where they pretend to be the perfect little married Christian couple and they got a whole nother life going on. I mean, literally, it might be a situation where the wife has a girlfriend, the husband has a boyfriend, and they're just coming together so they can take nice pictures that they can show off at church, and they don't want people to think badly of them. So they work very hard to create the perfect image so everybody can admire that. A lot of Hollywood relationships are like that, actually. A lot of Hollywood relationships. There are a ton of couples, very famous couples that I can name for you right now that you admire and just love so much, that inspire you every single day, that are just fucking frauds, that are just fake, that are completely fake. They present it in a certain way because it's almost like that Jack Nicholson movie in A Few Good Men where he basically said, you can't handle the truth. So sometimes people give you a lie because they feel like you can't handle the truth. And so anyway, when I saw this going on with Antoine and his wife and his whatever Nicole happens to be, I thought about it. And when I think about the shaming process, right? I think it's wrong. Like if you fat shame, Lela Rochon for putting on weight, no, that's not right. It's not fun to make fun of people when they're big, but it's not like you have to pretend like they're not big. It's not like you have to act like a person that does take care of themselves doesn't deserve a little credit for doing that, right? It's not like you accidentally get fat. You don't accidentally gain weight. It doesn't just happen to you. It's a choice. Like when I was fat, it was because it wasn't no accident. Didn't nobody inject me with a fat virus or somehow hit me upside the head with a chubby stick and make me fat. I chose to let myself go. I chose to let myself get to where I was, right? And now I know with Lela, I know she has lupus. I agree, but I know people that have lupus that didn't, blow up. Now, and again, this is not to say that lupus is not serious, though. I'm not saying that it's not serious at all. But I'm here to basically say that I don't think there's anything necessarily bad about sort of acknowledging the obvious, right? Because here's the other thing. There's a lot of shaming that happens in this situation. There's the shaming of that unfair shaming of Lela for putting on the weight. There is the shaming of that Nicole's been hit with that led her to have to go and apologize. The shaming, like, oh, you slut, you whore, you homewrecker, you this, you that, the other. I don't think that's fair. I just don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say I would condone all of that. But if we're into this world where we're all into condoning people's sexual preferences, like if somebody says I'm gay, I want to put my penis in another man's whatever, like people are like, don't shame that person for being gay. Don't shame them for their sexual preference. So if you're talking about sexual preferences, then her preference is for Antoine Fuqua. And his preference is for her. It is what it is, right? I'm not into the whole like, oh, you dirty slut, you slept with a married man kind of thing. I don't think that's fair either. I think they're shaming on Antoine. I think they're shaming, oh, you dirty dog, oh, you don't love your wife, etc. I'm not saying that he does or doesn't. I don't know if he loves his wife or not. I don't know the man. But I will say that some might say, well, if he didn't love her, then why is he still married to her? Because I know people that don't love their spouse who say, fuck you, I'm out. I can do better. I'm bouncing. I'm gonna write you a nice little check. Good luck with your life. I'm gone. The fact that he didn't do that could be an argument to say maybe he loves his wife. He just happens to be attracted to Nicole Murphy too, right? Scientists will actually tell you that a human being usually is only in love, like deep, deep love, with one person at a time. Love is usually a one-to-one thing, but lust can be one to many. You can have lust for lots of people, more than one, several people, but you may only really love one person, right? So what I will say, and I guess I feel I put myself out there to talk about this shit, even though I know I'm gonna get body slammed and attacked, and because people get mad when you disrupt their fairy tale or their whatever bullshit people have been shoving in their ears since they were little. They get mad when somebody tells them something different. But Uncle Boyce is gonna go ahead and just be honest with you about some of this, because some of y'all I'm old enough to be your uncle at least. And I will just say that, I think that we get love wrong, and that's why we have such a high divorce rate. I think that we don't understand or acknowledge the obvious, that there are some situations where somebody might love the living shit out of you, but after 20 something years, they might just say, I kind of like that person too. I might like that person for a couple of weeks. I love you to death. You can't be replaced. But I still, even though you look different from what you used to. You ain't sunshine no more, but you're my sunshine. That's why I'm gonna keep coming home to you. But I do still kind of like a woman who looks a certain way in a bikini or whatever, right? And I'm not saying it's right. You can decide what's right or what's wrong. But I will say this: there are studies that show that even though we like to deny this shit, your attraction to people changes based on how they change as well. So a woman that, for example, here's an example: a woman who loves her man, who feels like she's proud of her man because he's rich. He's Antoine Fuqua. He's making millions of dollars. Scientists actually show that if, let's say, Antoine falls off, let's say he loses his career, and let's say he's not working anymore, and instead of bringing in 10 million a year, he's bringing in 10,000 a year, right? He's putting on a Burger King uniform when he can get enough hours on the clock at Burger King to make his 10 grand a year. There are studies that show that women become less attracted to men when they lose their money. Did y'all know that? Tell me if you know this. Tell me if you know this, or tell me if you believe that this is true. There are studies that show that when a man loses his wealth, if he was rich when you were married to him or doing well, let's say he was just working hard every day. He's a coal miner or a truck driver and he's bringing home 80 grand, 100 grand, and then he loses that, he falls off, his income drops by 80%. Did you know that women become less sexually attracted to men when they lose their ability to provide? Did you know that? Did you know that? Right? And that's something people don't talk about. People don't want to acknowledge it because we believe this stuff like, oh, you're supposed to love them the same no matter what happens. No, that's bullshit. You don't love people the same no matter what happens. If he starts beating your ass every day or cussing you out or mistreating you, you're not going to love him the same as you did when he was treating you kindly or whatever, right? Even sexual performance. If his stuff ain't working right and he can't get the job done, you might be like, God, I love this man, but for some reason, I just don't feel the same connection. I just don't feel the same bond. Well, that's because your oxytocin is not flowing the way it used to when he was giving you like toe curling orgasms every other night. Like when he was hitting the spot the right way every single day, then somehow you felt connected. But now suddenly, because he can't perform, you're not feeling as enthusiastic about the relationship as you did before. My point is that things change. Things change. And one of the reasons that I think marriage becomes difficult for people, not that it's a bad or a good thing. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's just a thing. Marriage becomes difficult for people because we go into it under the assumption that things are never going to change and that we're never going to change. Right? That even as things change, she goes from, being Lela Rochon, the fucking most gorgeous thing to ever grace a movie screen, to becoming a person who doesn't have that same physical appeal. We assume that he's going to have that same physical attraction to her. And if he does not feel that, then something must be wrong with him. He must be a dog. He must be a terrible person. When really that's nature. That's nature acting itself out. Now, again, I don't know anything about him or her, and I'm not defending him or her or Nicole or anybody. I ain't defending nobody's shit. I don't know these people. All I'm saying is that, I think anybody who says that Lela deserves that is obviously wrong. I feel bad for her. My heart goes out to her. I think that what's probably affecting her the most, I would imagine, usually when people have something like that hits the surface, there's usually a whole lot that's happened below the surface before it gets to the surface. So when y'all saw the kiss, y'all were seeing the tip of the iceberg. I'm willing to bet you that Lela has had 20 years of interesting experiences in her marriage that led her to not be nearly as surprised as you. She probably, if the fairy tale's dead, she probably knew the fairy tale died, back in 2008, right? But for all of us, because we believe that everything is as perfect as they pretend like it's supposed to be, you're like, oh my God, he's kissing this woman and this woman's kissing a married man and she's a slut and that's terrible and what's wrong with you? And I just think that that's kind of naive, because a lot of y'all up in here right now have kissed a married person at some point, or have done something that you ain't supposed to do, have done, gotten to bed with somebody where you wouldn't exactly want that broadcast on CNN either. Come on, tell me if I'm telling the truth. Tell me if I'm telling the truth. I'm sure all of y'all, especially y'all church, heavy church going Negroes, like especially the church girls. The church girls are the wildest. But with all that said, I think that nobody will say that she deserves this, but she probably understood it. I think what's probably most difficult in situations like that, it seems to me from my experience, is the embarrassment of people knowing that that this is happening, right? Or that this has occurred. So that, I would imagine, that's probably part of the issue as well. I've seen, when you look at, if you remember the movie Ray, where Ray's wife basically said, like what happens on the road stays on the road. And she's basically saying, like, just keep your shit together. Like whatever shit you got going on, just keep it together and don't be messing up what we got going on in the house. That's the attitude some people take. And I think, I'm not going to say that's the right or wrong attitude, but I'll say that nowadays things are a little bit different because people, they want the reality to always match the fantasy. I believe that your grandmother and grandfather got through their shit because they knew the difference between the fantasy and the reality. They knew how to maintain the image, knowing that the image wasn't always going to match what was really happening underneath. So they didn't ask questions they didn't want the answers to. They didn't dig too deep into things that they didn't know if they were going to like what they were going to see. It's almost like I compare it to taking a shit. Everybody shits. Everybody does number 2 in the bathroom every single day, right? But you can be with somebody for 20 years and never see them actually in the act of taking a shit, right? And so for some people in their mind, they just don't correlate the beautiful person that they're with with the smelly, disgusting smell of what happens in the bathroom, right? They don't connect the two, and they don't want to see it. They're like, look, I don't want to see none of that. Like, just keep that out of my face. Just, all I know is that twice a day you go away and say, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to the ladies' room, right? They never say, I'm going to go take a big nasty shit, right? They don't do that. They say, I'm going to the ladies' room, I'm going to go powder my nose, right? We know ladies ain't in there powdering their nose, right? You're powdering your ass, right? That's what you're supposed to do, right? And then they come back and you look nice and clean and beautiful, and we can live in the little fantasy world, right? But but it would be kind of silly if a man was like, no, I want to follow you in there because I need to see everything. I need to see everything, and everything I see under the surface needs to be consistent with what I see on the surface. And if I don't see consistency all the way across the board, then that means you are a fraud. It's almost like that guy who had a daughter, and they were in a culture, I think they were from some country in Africa, it might have been Ethiopia, and his belief was, if you're a young girl, you're supposed to be a virgin. Period. If you ain't married, you ain't supposed to be having sex. Period. And so what he did was, it was interesting. So that was the culture. And I think what would happen, you know how it is between daddies and daughters. Like the daughter's like, oh, daddy, I'm just a little girl. Here's my stuffed animals. Like they do that. They're feeding the image. They're feeding this fantasy for the father to allow him to believe that his daughter is daddy's little girl, when really she might be like a borderline porn star on the weekends. Like, you don't know what your daughter's into, right? Well, this guy actually forced his daughter to present something from her doctor showing that she really was a virgin and before they got married. Like, he required her to show him this. And I thought that was kind of unfair. I really did. I thought that was like a little bit too much. And so I really think that if you want the truth about everything, I think you need to know if you can handle the truth. I think a lot of people say, I want the truth, but I don't know if they can really handle the truth all the time. And so my thought is that, I know that the way I evolved mentally when it came to relationships was, I just realized, I said, there's probably some questions I'm just not going to ask my woman. Like, questions I just don't, like, is his bigger than mine? No, I don't want to know. I want to go through life thinking that I've got the biggest whatever in the world, right? And that, that there's nothing bigger, that before me there were none, after me there will be no more. And you'll let me believe that nonsense because I never really asked you that. I never really forced you to give me an honest answer. So we're just going to play this game, and I'm okay with playing that game, right? So ultimately, I think that all this chaos about this situation or whatever, I think is a little bit much. I think Antoine, though, he's gonna suffer. I think that he's gonna be seen as a bad guy. I think it might affect his reputation in Hollywood. I'm kind of wondering, as a director, how that affects your opportunities. But I think people are mad at him, and they're going to be mad at Nicole Murphy. I think that's why Nicole Murphy apologized, because this is all about protecting that money. And I think she's making a little bit of money, and she needs the money, because I think that somebody swindled her out of like $10 million or something crazy like that. I think that poor Lela, it sounds like she's just going through a lot. And and I guess maybe there will be a divorce, but I would be surprised to see a divorce if it's because of this incident, right? Because from my experience, usually like Wendy Williams and Kevin Hunter, I don't know them extremely well, but I was on Wendy's show 6 times, and I know enough about Kevin Hunter to know I did not like this guy. And I will tell you this, I don't think Wendy was surprised one bit to find out that Kevin had the other woman. I think that Wendy knew 20 years ago and did not care, and y'all cared. So because everybody else cared, she had to behave a certain way. She had to feed the illusion, feed the image that she was like this little innocent little victim that had no idea what was going on, when the whole time she knew what the hell was going on. So that's my 2 cents on it. I just think we have to be honest. I think the more honest we are about how these things work, the better off you'll be. I think that for men, I think the more honest you are about what it means, what it means to be with a woman, I think the better your relationships are going to be. So for example, I think it's naive when a man, like that 50 Cent had that song where he's like 20 questions. Anybody remember that song where he's like, would you love me? Would you still love me if I was locked up for 25 years? Would you still love me if I had no money, if I was riding a bus instead of riding in a Bentley? Well, those are unfair questions, because you're trying to attract women because you're driving a Bentley and not riding a bus. You're attracting women because you're rich and famous. You're not dating women just because you want to be a nice guy. You're picking them because they have things that you like and you have things that they like. That's how y'all end up together. So it's actually an unfair question to say, would you love me if I was locked up for 25 years? She might say, yeah, I love you, but I'm not going to be with you because I did not sign up for this shit. I did not sign up to be married to a prison inmate or a dead man or a broke man. Like, that's not what she signed up for. So I think when you're honest about that, that keeps you from being disappointed when reality smacks you in the face, because all the scientists basically say when they talk about love, they make it real 100% abundantly clear. When one person rises up and has a lot of options and the other one doesn't, that relationship is as good as dead. That relationship, unfortunately, there's in many cases it's not going to last. Like you have two fat people. Let's say you have two fat happy people that both work at McDonald's together, and they decide they want to be together in their relationship. Two just chubby McDonald's employees, and that's it. So let's say one of them decides that she wants to start working out, and she loses 150 pounds, and he says, I don't want to work out, so I'm gonna keep eating cheeseburgers every day. So suddenly she's looking good, he's not. And then let's say that she becomes a news anchor on the local TV network. So her beautiful ass is now doing news on TV. And so everybody sees how beautiful she is. And suddenly she's meeting men from all over the world who are amazing guys who can do a whole lot more for her than her McDonald's employee ass looking boyfriend, right? Well, it doesn't mean that she's going to one day say, oh yeah, I want to leave. I'm going to leave this man because I'm doing great and he's not. She's not going to do that, because nobody wants to see themselves as disloyal. Nobody wants to see themselves as a bad person. Nobody wants to see themselves as a person who's that dirty and scandalous and a low life. What's going to happen though is usually people, when they're disloyal, they always have a reason why. So she'll say, yeah, I was loyal to him until he yelled at me that day, and that was just abusive. He was abusive, and so that's why I had to leave. When the reality is that actually there's a good chance that if y'all were two chubby ass McDonald's employees, like just kicking it with no money and both weighing 300 pounds, you will still be with him. But the reason that this thing that you felt like was a deal breaker, suddenly became a deal breaker. Before it wasn't a deal breaker because he's been yelling at you since the beginning of the relationship, but now suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly you can't take it no more. Suddenly you got to go. Suddenly I can't put up with this no more. Well, it's because you have more options. It's no different from an employer-employee relationship, right? An employer says, I can pay you $50,000 a year. The employee says, great. So you make a deal and it works. Well, if suddenly the employee's market value goes up to $300,000 a year and you're still getting paid $50,000 a year, then some people might say, I'm still going to be loyal to this job because this is where I want to be. But what happens is every time you come to work and your boss yells at you, or they make you work overtime, or they mistreat you, or you ask for something and they say no, then you're going to start saying, well, I got options. I could go work anywhere. I could go make $300,000 a year. And then you bounce. That's what happens. That's what happens it's easy to see when you're talking about a job, right? If I talk about that in the context of a job, people get it. People get it immediately. But when I talk about in the context of a relationship, people don't get it. But the reality is that if you really want to understand relationships, connect it to things you do understand, like jobs or like business or whatever, is then a lot of these things come very, very clear. My psychology teacher used to tell us, he said, in our heads, everybody has a score for attractiveness. Everybody has a score. When you look at somebody, if you feel like their score is much, much higher than yours, instantly, subconsciously, in your mind, you kind of conclude they're out of my league. Like I ain't got nothing going on. I'm broke as hell. I'm short and ugly and broke. She's gorgeous and all the men want her. She's out of my league, right? And so what happens is that people's scores change over time. So you lock together, you're Antoine Fuqua and you're an up and coming director. Your best work hasn't been done yet. Your market value has not peaked yet. She's Lela Rochon. She's the most gorgeous woman in all the Hollywood, prettiest thing that's ever graced a movie screen. So her stock is very high, right? So y'all get together, and then so over time, maybe her stock drops and his stock goes up. And then you start to see a divide, and that divide becomes tougher and tougher to maintain over time. So, but again, though, I would argue that the divide hasn't broken the marriage, because I would dare to say that whether or not he loves her, to me, is not measured by whether or not he kissed Nicole. To me, whether or not he loves her is measured by whether or not he stayed married to her. And the fact that he stayed married to her could say something. It could say, I love her to death, but I just happened to see this lady in the bathing suit, and Mother Nature got the best of me, so that's my 2 cents on it. I don't even know if I'm gonna get in trouble for saying all this, because I say shit that people don't want to hear because they get mad and it disrupts their fantasy. But I personally think that if you understand reality, then you can understand life better, and you can make better decisions, and and not end up shocked and disappointed over and over and over again because reality doesn't match your fantasy. So anyway, that's it. Stacy says they were on vacation together. I didn't know they were on vacation together. That's intense, right? So that's interesting too, right? Did Lela know. Maybe they had a dead marriage. Maybe Lela was like, look, get the hell up out of here. You go with your girlfriends, do whatever. I've seen that too. Has anybody ever seen that where the wife is like, get you a girlfriend because you're pissing me off, right? Or the husband is like, I don't really care who she's dating. My wife's dating somebody, but I don't even know the guy. That happens. That happens in marriages all the time. So that's just the reality. So anyway, I'm about to go. Don't forget, we actually made a movie. We have a film division. We're not big filmmakers, but we do make films. You know, we have a film called The Black Love Blueprint. So if you want to check out the trailer, you can go to theblackloveblueprint.com. THE, that's theblackloveblueprint.com. Also, I'll be in Chicago this week. So if you want to come and hang out, we'll be teaching all day long in Chicago in the South Loop. So if you'd like to come out, go to drboycechicago.com. That's drboycechicago.com. Please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button. Please share this video, and if I offended you, then please join the club, because everybody gets, you know, even if you like me, I'm gonna offend you at least twice a week. So just, if you can handle that, if you can deal with me, with you feeling like I'm an asshole at least twice a week, then you're in the right place. So I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll join us at drboycetv.com, because we always have fun and we talk about the real, you know, in an honest way. We don't hold nothing back. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Peace.